So after a long wait, AEW Double or Nothing has finally been in the books. The hype going into this show was quite big for me. I have not been this excited for a wrestling show in a long time. Royal Rumbles are probably the closest thing to it, but for the last couple of years, WWE has just not been the big show for me. And as much as I've enjoyed New Japan, it's still a product that is being directed at an audience that isn't necessarily me. So while I enjoy New Japan shows and while I've been really hyped up for Wrestle Kingdom, for whatever reason, Double or Nothing has been the show that's kind of just got me really up in hype and just on edge, being ready for something to burst. And now that the show is in the books, I think it's safe to say that we're definitely going to have a lot of fun in this next little while, whether it's a short term of this company being around or if this is a long-term company that we are just watching have its first show. You can technically say All In is its first show, but name-wise, this is its literal inaugural event. So Double or Nothing, to sum it up, was a show that didn't disappoint for me. I probably left watching that, or I shouldn't say probably left, I definitely left more excited as a professional wrestling fan than I have been in a long time. I left super happy watching that. And there are bits and pieces we can take apart of it, and we'll get to that. But to make it as simple as possible, this show was worth every penny that I spent on it. Now, I will say for the amount of money that I spent, I wouldn't like to do this for a consistent amount of time. And I know that they have a show coming up in July. I think it's the Jacksonville show, Fight for the Fallen. They did show another show they're going to do in August in Chicago. I'm hoping that by this point they figure out a way to not have to charge only pay-per-view. I want to be able to watch this in the same way that I can, say, watch WWE pay-per-views or New Japan pay-per-views or Ring of Honor, Stardom, DDT. Like, I want to be able to have the option to watch this for a hell of a lot cheaper than $50 every time a major show happens. I didn't mind shelling out $50 for this show, and me and my friends had a great time watching, but I don't think I can justify that price over and over again. So hopefully they're coming up with something that can make it at least a little easier on most people's wallets, because you're not going to get the casual fans specifically to go after $50 that many times. But I digress. So, kicking off the buy-in, the pre-show of Double or Nothing was the Casino Battle Royale. Now, I had a lot of interest going into this because the way that the Battle Royale worked, for those who didn't watch, is that they had 4 sets of 5 this time. It was like a Rumble, but instead of having just a bunch of one after the other entrances, it was just 5 guys in a row. None of them were crazy, really. I mean, there was a couple cool names, like Tommy Dreamer's in there, and then you had like Sean Spears, aka Ty Dillinger. You had a few guys like Billy Gunn, I think. Yeah, Billy Gunn was there. Glacier was in there. A lot of cool names. But the only name that was really going to matter was whoever drew the Joker at number 21 and was the one to come out on his own. I had a bunch of ideas. What I settled on in my head is it's going to be either Adam Page or Pac, because I figured with that match being gone, you're either going to put in Adam Page because he's got nothing to do, and I suspect that they wanted to push him for the title anyway, or I thought, hey, you want to have a really good story, because it really depended on who won. Or when I say who won, I'm talking the Omega Jericho match, because my thought process is if Adam Page wins, Jericho will win the main event, which he did. And in turn, that would mean that if Pac was suddenly the surprise opponent, because what a freaking heel way to enter the company, to be like, oh yeah, by the way, we completely bullshitted the match, so that way I could get an easy run into the title match, rather than having to go through Adam Page, who you could make the case that, especially after him kicking him in the balls in I can't remember what the company was in Britain that they use as the way to have their match, and they put it up on the channel. But he low-blowed them to get a disqualification, or he low-blowed the ref, I should say. So you could say that this would have been Pac's way to not have to deal with Adam Page, somebody who he fears would be able to take him to task. But either way, the only other 2 options I thought would have been Jon Moxley, who obviously showed up at the end of the show, and then the odd case of CM Punk, but I thought that was the most unlikely, because my thought process is if you're going to put a guy at the number 21 spot and he's going to get a title shot at the first ever championship match, it's got to be somebody who's going to be ready to go. And as much as I like Punk, He's probably got a lot of ring rust. I don't think he's really wrestled in the last, I don't know how many years it's been since he's gone, like 5 years. So it didn't make any sense. So I figured it was going to be one of the three. And as soon as we got their answer, I'm like, okay, well, we know what a good chunk of the night's going to be like. But either way, the Battle Royale itself was fine. I mean, if you were sitting there looking for anything amazing, you weren't getting it. You were getting like a massive expose on a lot of guys in the company that you've probably never heard of. You know, I'd seen a bunch of guys for the first time that I hadn't really gotten a look at because I'm not too in-depth on the independent circuits. So I got to see Michael Nakazawa for the first time. He was really entertaining. I'd never heard of Dustin Thomas, the what do you call that? Well, he was an amputee. I'm not sure what the term is because I'm blanking. He did some cool stuff, although it's one of those things that it's like, okay, it's cool and all. I just can't. I could never. If he had to have a one-on-one match, I don't know how the hell that would go. I wonder. I'd have to look that up, but I don't know how the hell that would work. That would be really strange to book. At least Zach Gowen with having the one leg, you could at least do something with it. But either way. I'd never seen Luchasaurus before. He ended up being one of the final three. That was pretty good. Jungle Boy, I've only seen photos of. I've never seen him wrestle. He was fine, I guess. I was actually really disappointed with Ty Dillinger, or in this case, Sean Spears. I thought he would go a little bit further. They knocked him out pretty early, which I was genuinely surprised by. I figured they would get a little bit more. I thought he would be in the Final Four for sure. But I guess I'm not certain if he's actually in the company or not, or if he was just a one-time thing. We've yet to see that. I mean, he looked great. He looked happy. He had a little bit with MJF. MJF's was the absolute belle of the ball in this match. He was doing all the heel stuff, getting all the heat, and doing a great job at getting everybody a shot to get themselves over. And him and Spears specifically had probably the better exchange. At some point, Janela took a really, really bad table bump. Looked like he landed dead on his head. That didn't look that great. It was funny with him using a lit cigarette, and I think Havoc put the cigarette in his forehead. That was interesting. I think Havoc, was it Havoc or was it Janela? I think it was Havoc who used a staple gun on Tommy Dreamer. There's a lot of good stuff in there. In the end, the final four ended up being MJF, Luchasaurus, Adam Page, obviously. Who was the fourth? Oh, yeah, it was Jimmy Havoc. Havoc got knocked out. And then Luchasaurus and Paige went for a little bit. That was really good to watch. I'm really interested in Luchasaurus now that I've seen him. He looks fucking amazing. Paige gets Luchasaurus out, and then MJF does the classic hide under the ring for a little while and eliminate Paige at the last minute, except Paige manages to keep his feet off the floor and does the quick elimination. And Adam Page, unsurprisingly, is your winner. I think it was pretty obvious whoever was in that Joker spot was going to win. Not to mention that you knew, based on the talent that was in the ring, and no offense to any of the guys in the ring that were not Adam Page, but you knew that nobody else in that ring was going to be in that title shot. You're not going to have, on your first championship match in this new startup company, have a guy going up against either Kenny Omega or Chris Jericho, two of the best in the business. You're not going to have somebody with name value that isn't quite there. That's why I figured it had to be a Paige or a Pac, or it had to be a big name like a Moxley or a Punk. It had to be somebody with name value, because if you're going to sell that first show, you need that name power. And Adam Page may not be the name power, but what he is familiar enough to the crowd that is already interested in the show, and you have Jericho to automatically get the casual fans' attention. So it's a great mix. And I'll talk about it more when we get to the main event, because I don't want to jump over things back and forth here. So Paige wins it. Oh yeah, the only other thing I forgot is I hadn't seen Orange Cassidy before, and I had friends that told me a lot about him. I'd love to see more of this guy, and I know a lot of people are going to have an issue with stuff like that, and I know Jim Cornette's probably shitting bricks, after watching that, if he did. I will say straight up, as long as they don't make this the focal point, stuff like what Orange Cassidy was doing and things like that, I'm okay with it. It's the same with guys like Joey Ryan, although I think Joey Ryan's going to have to tone it down a little bit now that they're going to be on TV. That's a different story. But to have the comedy stuff on the show, I don't think there's an issue. The problem that they could encounter is that they use that comedy way too high on the card. That should be a lower card thing. That shouldn't be taken as, these guys shouldn't be taken as the ultimate serious guys. So you can do it as a fun thing to do in the matches, like in the same way that you had Tyler Breeze and Fandango doing the Fashion Police stuff, where it's funny, they can still go, but you also know that they're not the belle of the ball in the company. They're not going to be top guys. It's there for, kind of an offset match to kind of get you, kind of smiling again. Maybe it's after a heel wins a really disgusting finish to a match that makes you all pissed off, and these guys are the ones that kind of bring you back. You can do that stuff. Just hopefully they do the smart thing and don't use that too often, because I think for the casual fan it probably won't get them to stay there, because if they want to watch hokey stuff all the time, there's the internet. You don't have to go to wrestling to do that. The other show on the the other match on the buy-in was Kip Sabian and Sammy Guevara. I think Guevara had been on Lucha Underground, if I remember correctly, but I don't remember the look of either of them. I was not overly impressed with the match. I mean, there were a couple of good spots, but I didn't end up walking away liking either of them too much. I know my girlfriend was enjoying the both of them because she liked the hair, but in terms of the actual match, it was fine. If you were going to put something on a pre-show, though, for your first ever show as All Elite Wrestling, I probably would have done something different to be a little more show-offy. But, it is what it is. I think those guys were supposed to be in the Rumble, but because... not the Rumble, the Battle Royale. But because of the Pac and Paige match being canceled, they needed something to fill in. So that's probably what they're going to do. Speaking of the buy-in altogether, I wonder, because of that match being canceled, what the buy-in would have actually been, including what the Battle Royale would have been. I wonder who number 21 would have been if that match wasn't there. That's a really interesting idea. I wonder if Moxley maybe would have been that person. Because I guess the plan was, unless they were going to do... Well, I guess it depends, because I wonder if the stipulation of the winner being part of the championship match was always a thing, because I thought they made it seem like in the initial press conference to reveal the company that Paige and Pac were going to be the first guys to go after the title. And I wonder if that match had happened, that the Battle Royale would have just been a Battle Royale with no end goal. I wonder if it just would have been a show-off thing, and maybe you could have had a interesting person coming in at 21 just for maybe a legend or something. Who knows? But it's interesting. And the same goes for the Sabian Guevara match. I wonder what they would have put in had both men still been in the Battle Royal like they were supposed to be. But either way, it is what it is. The buy-in was fine. It was just a nice thing to kind of warm up and just kind of enjoy yourself a little bit. But we get to the main show, and the opening match was SoCal Uncensored, Christopher Daniels, Frankie Kazarian, and Scorpio Sky going up against Strong Hearts of Seema, T-Hawk, and El Lindemann. I was really excited to see those three guys because I'd never seen them before. I'd heard much about Seema. The other two I had not. But I heard a lot of the hype going into OWE, the Oriental Wrestling Entertainment guys, and I don't know if this match quite did it. I mean, they were good, but it was about the same level of stuff that I would expect to see from, say, the juniors in New Japan. I thought I was going to be seeing something I'd never seen before, and I honestly didn't see anything too amazing that I just kind of shot out of my seat and went, holy crap, I've never seen that before. The match was still great. I still enjoyed it. It was a good match just to open things up if you were just looking for something to kind of get your blood pumping and seeing some really fast octane action. It was good, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the hype was necessarily worth it. I wonder if maybe we would need to see them in one-on-one matches to give them a chance to really tell a story, maybe have them fighting each other. I don't know what the shows are like when they do them back in China. But either way, I wasn't upset so much as I was just oh man, I was hoping for a little bit more. But I mean, everything was fine. I still love all six guys. They did a great job. I'm still amazed how good at the age that Christopher Daniels is getting at. He's still a fantastic guy, and I'm glad that he's getting a chance to possibly wind down his career here and just enjoy himself, because he looks like he's having a blast. But yeah, the match was fine. I just wouldn't sit there and talk too highly about it, because I thought it was just a good match. It was okay. It was fine. Following that was our first big surprise of the evening. You had the triple threat match with Britt Baker, Kylie Rae, and Nyla Rose. Brandy came out just before the match started. She was looking like She was going to put herself into the match, very much like what New Day did at WrestleMania when they introduced the Hardys, and that's exactly what Brandy did here. And she said She said that she knew it was going to be a great match, but she wanted it to be an awesome match. And at that point, I knew somebody was coming, but my brain wasn't clicking in. So as soon as the music hit, I'm like, oh, okay, so we're getting somebody. And then we see it's Awesome Kong, and we have not seen her wrestle. I mean, I haven't seen her wrestle at the very least since she left WWE. I don't know if she's been wrestling since she left. She's obviously been acting because she's been in Glow for, I don't know how many seasons now. Is it 2 or 3? I don't know. I've only saw the first season so far. But I was amazed to see her. One of my other friends who's really big into Joshi wrestling because he knows how much her and Aja Kong were together and doing a lot of stuff out in Japan. He just marked out like a motherfucker during that. And the match itself was fantastic. If that is your first match to show off the women's division, they did a good job. However, I will say that the match was not being carried by the two big women. Awesome Kong was fine. Obviously, she hasn't wrestled in a while, so there was clearly a little bit of rust. But I was very disappointed by Nyla Rose. She didn't really get a lot of offense in. I don't know if that was on purpose. Maybe they're trying to kind of hide her a little bit for now. But Baker and Ray were carrying the vast majority of the match. And I thought I was going to leave feeling, okay, we got 3 really good competitors and here's this 4th surprise. But instead, I felt like we just got Baker and Ray running it. And it wasn't necessarily bad, but when I look back at it now, it would have just been better to have those two go at it in a match. And that would have been it. And it would have been a fantastic match. I still really enjoyed it because I've been waiting for women's wrestling to be a little better because WWE's version is either good, really good, or in most cases right now, it's just Because as much as I like Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, Asuka, obviously the NXT matches are a lot better because they're just going rather than doing all the bullshit that the main roster shows tend to do. But that is the benchmark. Apparently the main roster is the best of the best, and their women's matches often are very boring. And this match was not. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't the best women's show on the card, and I will get to that shortly as we move further up. But this was still a very good match, and if this is what the women's division is going to be like, I'm very excited to see what they do. They obviously showed off another upcoming girl. I'm trying to think what her full name was. Was it Sadie Gibbs, I think? I know Gibbs was the last name. I think it was Sadie. But, either way, it's going to be a lot of new names because they're trying to start women's wrestling in their own way again, kind of what the Knockouts division did. I know they're taking a bit from Joshi wrestling, which is a great place to go to, and obviously I'll get to that in a moment as well. But I am genuinely excited in what they're doing, and hopefully they just don't make the mistake of shoving it down our throats in the same way that WWE did when the Divas Revolution happened, or when the Women's Revolution happened, because that became a little bit too much of a sore spot because they wouldn't shut up about it. Next up, we had the Best Friends, Chuck Taylor and Trent Beretta, going up against Angelico and Jack Evans. I was very excited for this match because I have not seen Angelico since, I think, what was the last season of Lucha Underground I was watching? I think it was season 3, because I've missed a few. Season 2 or season 3. That's how long it's been. I don't remember. And I was really excited to see him, and him paired with Jack Evans. I was very happy to see them both back and going. I love Best Friends. Chuck Taylor has always been a favorite of mine. And the match was good. I will only say that I'm disappointed because I feel like Angelico didn't really do a lot. And that was the part I was excited for the most. He didn't do as much high flying as I'm used to seeing from him. And I wonder if maybe he did do a crossbody towards the end, but I feel like he was very limited in terms of his over-the-top stuff. Jack Evans was far beyond going nutso in the air, whereas Angelico was kind of staying down on the ground. And I wonder if maybe he's hurt or he's just feeling a little bit out of it. Maybe he's got some rust. I don't know what he's been doing. or maybe he's just switching his style around. I'm not mad. I'm not like upset about it. It's just more like it was the same with with the Strong Hearts guys, where I was hoping for something a lot more, and it just wasn't quite there. It wasn't bad. It was just I was hoping for great, not just good, because I was really excited to see him. But overall, they had a great match. They actually devoid it of comedy a lot more than I thought they would, because Chuck Taylor is very much a really good comedy guy when he wants to be, and they actually kind of took it easy. But in the end, actually, I'm trying to think. Did I even say who won the last couple of matches? Because SCU won the match against Strong Hearts. I might have completely forgot to say what the finishes were. But, so just to quickly say, yeah, I did say Paige. Kip Sabian won the match with Guevara. I think I straight up forgot to say all of them. Holy crap. SoCal Uncensored, like I said, beat Strong Hearts, and Britt Baker was the one who won that women's four-way. But in this match, the Best Friends defeated Angelico and Evans. They did the... What's the finisher? I can't remember what it's called. I think it's the same finisher that Trent and... Crap, who was his partner before that? Shit, I'm blanking. Who was his partner in New Japan when a couple of years ago? Was it Rocky? I think it was. Yeah, it was Rocky. Fuck, Roppongi Vice. Jesus, I'm so out of it. But yeah, they did their usual finisher. Obviously, Chuck Taylor taking that spot, and it was a fantastic match. They shook hands after, and then the lights went. I'm thinking, fuck. Okay, well, there's gonna be a new tag team debuting. I'm thinking, is there a big tag team out there that I don't know about that isn't there? That isn't in WWE or could be transferring over? And I'm thinking about it. Because it had a good 10 seconds. And the lights go back on. And I didn't recognize the first guy that didn't have a mask on. But when I saw Player Uno's mask, I totally had no idea that the Super Smash Brothers were A, still together, and B, still even wrestling. And to see them on AEW television was both awesome and disappointing at the same time, because I fucking miss the NES tights that Player Uno used to have. But to see them back and to see that cool fucking human throne that they did, that was friggin' cool. I'm really curious to see what those guys are doing. Now, the fans didn't take too kindly to it because they didn't know who they were, so there was a big "Who are you?" chant. I was really annoyed by that. But either way, it is what it is. It's nice to see that we got at least, well, if you count SoCal Uncensored, if you count the Strong Hearts guys, you already got a pretty good amount of teams, and you have Best Friends Angelico and Jack Evans, you have the Lucha Brothers, you have the Young Bucks, and now you also have the Super Smash Brothers, so you potentially have 7 really good tag teams, and that's what we know of, and hell, we even have, actually, you know what, I'll save that for when I get to later down the card. But we potentially have 8 teams. One that could be on and off depending on how things work later in the story. But we have 7 guaranteed very interesting teams that can do very well in the tag team division. And that is awesome for tag team wrestling in AEW, because the WWE doesn't seem to know what they want to do with it. And it seems to me like AEW's got a pretty good grasp on what they want. And I'm very excited to see that, because we have some damn good teams to watch. We get to my personal favorite match on the card, and a lot of people really didn't like it. And I get it. I really do. But I'm sorry with the people that are that upset with, say, the different style and the amount of people that no one had ever heard of, and the incessant high-pitched noise that gets made in these matches. But that is Joshi, and I am a big Joshi supporter. And to see a lot of these girls that I hadn't seen before or hadn't seen in a long time, I have not watched an Aja Kong match in forever. I have known of a couple of names. I had heard a lot about Hikaru Shida, and now that I've seen her, I am 100% behind her. Holy shit. I never knew how badly I wanted a Katana Maiden in wrestling, and good lord did I find it here. I really enjoyed Riho as well, and Yuka Sakazaki I enjoyed. Emi Sakura coming out as Freddie Mercury was very interesting, although I don't feel like she did a whole lot. And Ryo Mizunami was also very good. Her and Aja had some nice exchanges. But overall, just to see something, because I don't get to see Joshi very often, because I don't have Stardom, I don't have Sendai Girls, Ice Ribbon, and various other promotions that are in Japan. So when I do get to see this style of wrestling, I get very excited because it's a style that I don't see often, and it's still very fresh and new to me. In the same vein of that, New Japan is now starting to kind of trail off with me because I've seen it for a few years, but the first year of watching Wrestle Kingdom 9 and then watching shows after that and being so into strong style because I hadn't seen that style very often before, this is the same thing with Joshi. I don't see Joshi very often, so whenever I see it, it's fresh and new to me, and I'm really excited when I watch it, and I was genuinely happy as hell watching that match. There was a lot of fun. Now, the finish was botched. I don't know if there was a miscommunication, whether the pin was supposed to happen and they slipped, or if the timekeeper was just not paying attention. Maybe he's not used to the way that near falls work with these kind of matches, but they rang the bell early and the match ended about a minute later, and it felt very flat at that point, and that's why I think a lot of people are kind of having problems with it, because they A, didn't know very much of what was going on, B, they probably just didn't see the style that they were looking for. Maybe it just wasn't interesting to them, and then the finish just kind of sucked. Like it kind of sucked the air out of the room. But I still thoroughly enjoyed it. The guys that were watching with me that had never really seen a lot of wrestling before, especially Japanese women's wrestling, they were thoroughly impressed with what those girls were doing, especially girls like Aja and Emi, who are both very up there in age and still do fantastic. Like, Aja took a lot more bumps than I thought she would and still looked fantastic, and it worked very well, and I really enjoyed it. It was my favorite match on the card. I'm not going to say it was the best match on the card, but it was definitely the one that I enjoyed the most. This is what I think people will call the best match on the card, Cody and Dustin Rhodes. And that is not because it was the best in-ring match, but because it was the best storytelling match that we have seen in a long, long time. And it was like that for a multitude of reasons. The brother versus brother angle alone gets your attention. To know that Cody and Dustin both have a huge monkey on their back looming over them from WWE. Cody obviously taking a sledgehammer to a Triple H looking throne in his entrance. And Dustin really just never getting a shake to show what he was made of, because as Goldust, he was never going to be a major character. So both had things to prove. Cody had to prove that he could do this himself in a company that wasn't WWE, and Dustin had to prove that he could go, because people have always assumed that he's a comedy character, and he needed to prove, not just to the fans, but to himself, that he is worthy of the Rhodes name and worthy of all the praise that he's been given over his 30-year career. That alone could have done a fantastic match. And then Dustin bladed, I'm assuming. And he bled a lot. A lot to the point that one of my friends was very uncomfortable, thinking they need to do something about this. And me and my two friends that are really heavy wrestling fans, we looked at each other and we were genuinely surprised that the referee didn't don on the gloves like we're used to seeing in WWE, and at least try to rub some of it out and maybe try to just put some of that jelly on it just to try to stop the bleeding. No, they let them go. This was 1980s level bleeding. This was not for the faint of heart. He was covered. Flair isn't usually covered this much. And it was noticeable the more and more the match went. The outside was covered, the ring was covered, and it was getting uncomfortable. And there were a bunch of near falls. Dustin almost got him with the crossroads. He did a final cut. That didn't make it. And then finally, Cody was able to finish him off, effectively and metaphorically speaking, of course, killing the Attitude Era and winning the match. And he was leaving the ring, everybody cheering for Dustin, giving him a round of applause because we're all assuming it's his last match. There were a lot of Dusty chants in the match, which also made things very emotional. They pointed up to the heavens a couple of times, and it was a very emotional match. And then Cody comes back into the ring, and I actually straight up looked at my friends and said, "Oh, he's gonna take him out one more time. He's gonna do the fake handshake and take him out one more time," because I'm used to seeing Cody trying to be the absolute dickhead heel, and I figured that was going to be what happened. And he grabbed a mic, cut a promo, and said, "I signed my name on a contract for our next show, saying you can't retire here because I put my name on this thing, and it's a tag team match against the Young Bucks with a partner of my choosing. And I don't need a partner, and I don't need a friend. I need my older brother." And I don't know, because you look at like I was looking on Chris Van Vliet's YouTube channel because he had a couple of post interviews, and he had one with Dustin, and Dustin said he had no idea what was going on. But I don't know if that meant kayfabe wise or real, because you would have to assume that they planned this. But how amazing would that be if it wasn't? I believe that this was planned, but as soon as he said that, the tears started flowing on both of them. They had a big embrace. I still half thought that maybe something was coming. There were a few more moments that I still thought, and then nothing happened. So it looks to me like they're going to fight the Young Bucks, and maybe this is Dustin's last match potentially in July. I hope not, because if this is what Dustin's capable of doing at 50, I think he could be like, let's say a Minoru Suzuki or a Yuji Nagata or Satoshi Kojima are in New Japan, or even a Jushin Thunder Liger, Tiger Mask, like all those guys that are up there in age, but they bring them in for the lower card matches just as kind of like a way to help the young guys get over and teach them the ropes, while they're in front of a crowd. I think that would be genuinely interesting. But if July's his last match, it's a hell of a way to go. He mentioned in his post interview that this is going to be his favorite moment of his career, and you think that he's just saying it in the moment. No, I truly believe that he means that, because this is the first time in a long time, probably since the days of him being in WCW, where he might actually feel like he's now fully out of his dad's shadow and he's now himself. And to be able to do it with his younger brother just makes it that much better. And I thoroughly enjoyed the story of that match, and seems like a lot of people also agree with that. Bret Hart came out as a surprise to introduce the AEW Championship. MGF came out to cut a little bit of a promo. It kind of turned into a bit of a clusterfuck, because you figured Paige, because Paige got, Adam Page for that matter, got brought out to see the title. And that's when MGF came out and interrupted to talk a little bit of trash. And you figure, okay, well, I was just assuming that MJF would come into the ring, Paige would knock him down, and Hart would put him in the shooter. Instead, MJF tried to walk away, and then Jungle Boy and Jimmy Havoc just came out, and they all beat him up into the crowd, and then just Bret Hart randomly showed off the belt. It was a bit of a weird clusterfuck of a segment. I wish they'd done a better job of that. I think they could have made it so much simpler, and that was a little overbooked. The belt itself looks pretty good. I will admit, now that I've gotten a good look at it, because it was kind of quickly brushed off on TV, I don't understand why the AEW logo was on every single part of the belt. It seems like it's a bit much. They could have just done it on the big front plate and left it at that, and I think it would have been the ultimate belt. It's still nicer than the Universal title because it doesn't look like a fucking fruit by the foot. But is it the best belt I've seen? No, I think I can still go out there and go after the IWGP Championship and the Intercontinental Championship. The Golden Eagle belt is still, or the Wing Eagle belt from WWF back in the day is still a great belt. The old Ric Flair, Dusty Rhodes WCW title is still a much better belt. But at the very least, it's better than the over-the-top, massive W piece of shit fucking fruit by the foot belt that WWE has. All right. Our two main events, the AAA World Tag Team title match between the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers. I am one of the biggest Pentagon Jr. fans ever since I watched Lucha Underground, and I never stopped being super happy seeing him. And this match was fantastic. Speaking of great tag team wrestling, holy fucking shit. The crowd was definitely ready to go at this point, and it showed. That match just did not stop. There were a lot of near falls. The match seemed like it went on a little bit longer than it could have, or should have, I should say. One of my friends was starting to get a little bit annoyed because there were a lot of near falls that you figured should have finished the match, and it didn't. And for a casual fan, that's not going to go over well because you figure an ending's coming. As a hardcore wrestling fan, I'm very well aware of how many near falls potentially going to happen in a match. So I wasn't faltering, but my casual friends were definitely. But the match as a whole was fantastic. Pentagon doing all his stuff. The Young Bucks doing all his stuff. Phoenix doing unbelievable shit that I can't believe he does without not falling flat on his face when he's jumping all over the ropes. We kept hearing the Bucks teasing a new finisher, and it never came. They did hit the bang for your buck, or more bang for your buck, didn't work. Pentagon at some point snapped Matt's arm. They also hit the package pile driver on the apron, which looked fucking horrendous. Oh, that looked like it hurt. Bunch of near falls on that. And then finally, the Bucks ended up getting everything back in order, hit a Meltzer driver on Phoenix, and they scored the win. Again, fantastic match. And like I said earlier when I was talking about Best Friends and Angelico and Jack Evans, tag team wrestling is in a very good place here in AEW, and I can't wait to see how they take it further. I'm genuinely surprised the Young Bucks kept the titles, but I wasn't even aware that they were the champions. For some reason, I kept thinking the Lucha Brothers were, because my brain is thinking, I couldn't imagine the Young Bucks being in AAA. But I guess because of the relationship they have with them now with AEW and AAA, it makes sense. So I guess they'll be going there and probably losing the belts sooner than later. Maybe it is at the July. Well, no, the July won't be the July show. Maybe they carry it all the way to TV, although I doubt that. But either way, I'm super excited to see how all of these guys go from here. And it's to say, too, like, you could have, at some point in AEW or AAA, Pentagon turning on Phoenix, which would have to be the result. Phoenix could never be the guy that turns on Pentagon. It wouldn't make any sense. And those guys as singles are great. I mean, you watch Lucha Underground, those two are fantastic in singles action as well. So there's a lot to look forward to with those four guys. And I can't wait to see what goes on in July when we see Cody and Dustin take on the Bucks. So that will be a fantastic match. So we get to our main event. Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega. The winner would face Adam Page for the world title in the July show in Jacksonville. And unsurprisingly, Chris Jericho won. And I am going out on a limb and saying, I even said this before the pay-per-view started, Jericho will be your first champion. And it's not because of any reason other than they need to sell this company as well as they can. And the only way you're going to do it is say, who's your first champion? It's a name that everyone knows. If Adam Page is the first champion, it's going to be hard to sell it to casuals off the top. But if you have Jericho holding that belt, and I assume he will because you need I don't think you benefit from having a babyface champion be your first champion. I feel like you need to have somebody wreck the company for a while to really get people waiting for that first real good journey to the title. Whether it's Adam Page, whether it's Kenny Omega, maybe if it's even Cody Rhodes, maybe it's Jon Moxley, who we will talk about because he showed up. But there's a lot of options. And having Jericho as the champion makes the most sense because it gives you the most options. Excuse me, I had a burp there. And the match was fantastic, as I expected it to be. Jericho looked like he had a bit of an extra gear here. He definitely was a little more stamina-ridden or stamina wealthy than he used to be. That's obviously why the no-holds-barred match was at Wrestle Kingdom. Jericho was not going to be able to go 30 minutes unless they could do all the waiting and stuff outside the ring that you could do to get away with it. This was not that. There was a lot of action in this match. Omega came out as Kirito from Sword Art Online in his entrance. Jericho had this really cool entrance where they showed all of his forms. I thought he was coming out as Lionheart Chris Jericho, and then it went away, and then I realized what they were doing. So it started him as Lionheart Chris Jericho. Then a guy comes out with the list. I'm genuinely surprised they had the list of Jericho out there because I figured that was a WWE trademark. I'm not sure how those things work. And then he came out with the lighted jacket, which was also weird to me because the lighted jacket was before the list. So they kind of got it out of order. But it is what it is. And Jericho came out, none of the makeup that you see in New Japan, so that looks like it's his New Japan thing only. Just straight up dickhead, like almost like a mafia assassin sort of look to him, and he looked ready to go. And both of them had a perfect match. Was it? Would I say it's a 5-star match? I think you can make a case that it's definitely more. It's definitely 4.5, 4.75 if you're looking at Meltzer stuff. I don't know if I call it 5. I think the finish was a little out of nowhere, and that's probably the one thing holding it back with me, because after everything we saw, Omega never even hit a near fall with the One Wing Angel, so they protected his finisher. Jericho hit a bunch of code breakers and lion salts and had Omega in the walls a couple of times. And then eventually he hit that back fist elbow, the Judas effect, and Kenny just went down like a sack of potatoes, and that was it. I was genuinely surprised. I figured there would be a little bit more to it, but they wanted to make it seem like Jericho's a hell of a force to reckon with, I guess. And I think the fans were genuinely surprised too, because the reaction was not as big as I thought it would have been. But like I said, it came a little bit out of nowhere, because the way that it was done, Jericho hit another coat breaker on Omega, and Omega just kind of faltered. He didn't quickly go for anything. And also, the Judas effect seems like a move that should come out of nowhere, whereas the way that he did it just looked like he set him up, like how Aleister Black in WWE sets guys up for the Black Mass and just does it. You expect the Black Mass to be almost out of nowhere sometimes. Same with like what Randy Orton does with the RKO. So hopefully they use the Judas effect a little bit better, because I think that was used improperly to finish the match. But the match itself was still fantastic. But what caps off the show is Jericho starts making a promo, and then almost like how Scott Hall came down to the ring at WCW, all of a sudden you see a person's coming down the stairs and the fans freaking out, and it didn't take long for me to realize, holy shit, it's Dean fucking Ambrose, or now John fucking Moxley. And holy shit, if you remember Dean Ambrose back in FCW, not even NXT, in FCW before it made the transfer to NXT, that swagger and that chaotic mind and the cerebralness and the downright mental patient kind of look to him, he was in full fucking mode with this, and he looked fantastic. Now the jacket could leave a little things left, like the spray paint Mox on his jacket looked a little weird, but in terms of his ring presence, he looked on point. And that would mean that July's co-main event, so we're probably like our big 3 matches at this point are Cody and Dustin against the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega versus John Moxley, because Moxley laid everybody out. He laid out Jericho first, he laid out the referee, and then he laid out Omega, but he took Omega out of the ring after, battled around, because Omega... Actually, no, sorry, he didn't lay out Omega. Omega countered, and then they fought outside the ring for a while, and then they went to where the set was with the poker chips, climbed up on top, and he delivered Dirty Deeds on the poker chips, and then threw him off onto the stage, and it didn't look like a padded stage, so that didn't look like a great bump. So Moxley is likely going to be facing Omega, and then you have Jericho and Adam Page as your main event for the title, assuming Jericho wins. So for a second show in July, I'm already excited for the 3 matches they got set up for the main event. And that's not even just because of what's on paper, but because the show that I saw, while there are some faults with it, and I've heard various reactions so far, I'm waiting. It's 5 o'clock in the evening here Eastern as I'm finishing up here. He's probably posted at this point, but I'm waiting to hear the Solid Monster Sounds Off show talking about this. But I've heard various podcasts, and it's been mixed. I've seen people be really happy with the show, people be really upset with the show, and I'm kind of in this crossroads where I think I'm starting to get a little annoyed with certain shows and certain personalities out there when it comes to the internet wrestling community, where I think we're trying a little too hard to find the perfect company. And this is the thing. This show is by no means perfect. But when you compare it to what we've been sitting through for a long time here in North America, because I can go out there and say I love New Japan shows. Like, I've been watching a few matches on and off that I get shown of Best of the Super Juniors, and it's been amazing. When Dominion comes up, I will watch the full show. I don't watch every New Japan show just because I don't have the time to keep up with everything, so I pick and choose what I can. So, like, for example, people were telling me about the Show and Shingo Takagi match from Best of the Super Juniors. I watched that. The only two shows I will guarantee myself to watch are Wrestle Kingdom and Dominion, because those are the two big ones. If there is a main event on a New Japan pay-per-view that's not those two that I'm really interested in, then I'll look into it, but it's those two. So I don't talk about those as my general consensus on what wrestling is like here, because it's not the same. We have only WWE to look at before this show. And what is WWE giving to us? Nothing. I have not thoroughly enjoyed a WWE show since Evolution, which is insane because it's the one show all last year that I thought would be absolute garbage because of the card. And it was amazing. It was a fantastic show. I look forward to the Rumble this year, and it was garbage. I look forward to WrestleMania this year, and it was garbage. It wasn't offensively bad like last year, but it was still garbage. It was not what I was hoping for. This show, even though it is not a perfect show, and it was not an awesome show, but it was a great show. And because I have not seen a great wrestling pay-per-view for a long time, I am genuinely happy that I paid the money I did to see this show. It was worth it to me, and I am genuinely happy that I took 5 hours out of my night to watch it. I know a lot of people are mad about it being so long, but this is the thing. And Cody said it in a post-show interview that not every show is going to be like this. It sounds to me like they wanted this to, since it's their first big show, they were gonna boatload this show. They were gonna just do whatever they could on this to get you going, to find something for everybody. I think the Fight for the Fallen show in July will probably be your typical 3-hour show. And that will hopefully shut up a few of the people that were bitching about it being 5 hours. Because no offense to them, but if you can't handle a 5-hour show that had the action that this show does, like, I'm sorry, but maybe wrestling is kind of starting to not be your thing. Because I thoroughly had fun, and I didn't feel like it was 5 hours. I felt like the only match that I kind of struggled with a little bit was the pre-show match of Sabian and Guevara. Every other match, while some were not as good as others, I felt no problem sitting there, and I could have watched another hour if I wanted to. Now, I'm not saying that every show needs to be 6 hours. I'm not saying every show needs to be 5. Honestly, if they do a pre-show that is 1 or 2 matches of people that you either haven't heard of, just to kind of a showcase and being like, hey, these are some up-and-comers that we got coming, and then you have your main 3-hour show and you cut out at 11, that's fine. But here is the biggest thing that made me so happy about this show compared to WWE pay-per-views. It's Sunday today. I am so happy that I can talk about the show right now, because at this point, if it was Monday, I'd be at work and unable to record this until I get home. And I have such little time between my shift and when I have to go back to bed for the next day. I don't know if I want to sit down for an hour. I would have to, because I feel like it's a requirement. But the fact that I got to do this on a Saturday with all my friends, they don't have to worry about getting up early for work in the morning. They can just chill. And we don't have to think about looking at the clock. We don't have to think about, oh, how long is this show going to go? It didn't matter. And because of that, I hope that they keep these shows on Saturday nights. I genuinely hope that they don't change this, because it worked. It was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed the show, and I get to wake up today on Sunday morning and still be thrilled and not have to go be miserable at work the next day. AEW Double or Nothing, I will tell you, as a first impression, because again, we're not counting All In here because officially it was not an AEW show. It was a Ring of Honor mixture show. I mean, because Ring of Honor put most of the backing into it. This is our first full All Elite Wrestling branded show. And if this is a first impression, I can't wait to see what the second one is. There were a few matches on the card that weren't as good, but I wasn't offended at any match. The only thing that I was partially annoyed by was that librarian thing that they did when they were trying to interview Kylie Ray. I believe that was on the pre-show, if I remember correctly. My only other complaint, and now that I just remembered, the announcers were fantastic except for Alex Marvez. I believe that's his name. Excalibur was fucking incredible. Pay that man double what he's making, because he carried that show. JR did as good as he could. He's obviously not as familiar with a lot of these guys. That is something that will grow over time. But that Alex Marvez guy's like, he needs to either go away or they need to put him aside for a little while and teach him what the hell to be doing, because he did not sound like a wrestling announcer. He sounded like he was more equipped for a golf tournament than he did anything else. There are a lot of guys out there on the market that you could get as a play-by-play guy that would be so much better. Man, like that was the best wrestling show I've seen in a long time. Regardless of some of the complaints I have, I can't be that upset. I'm genuinely happy that I got to see this. The hype was super high for me going in, and I am so ecstatic that it wasn't wasted, and that I didn't go in underwhelmed, that matches didn't come out how I wanted them to, and there were even a couple of surprises that I was really happy with. Seeing Awesome Kong there was fantastic. Seeing the Super Smash Brothers was a little one for me that I think a lot of people didn't get to enjoy the way that I did. But man, you look at everything together, that was an unbelievable show. If I got to put a rating to it, the show as a whole is a 4-star show. A lot of matches that could have been better. They underdelivered, but they weren't bad matches. There were just a few that just could have been a lot better. I think with a little more time, you're going to see better things from the OWE guys. I think that was a huge problem. I think when we get a better idea of what the roster is, it'll be easier to settle into guys, because when you see a lot of guys for the first time, you open up, but at the same time, you don't open a lot of room. And Sabian and Guevara was a great example of that, where it was two guys I hadn't seen, and I gave them a peek into the open door, but they didn't really have the room to go in, and they didn't really do much. But for the guys that I wanted to see, they performed. For the one match I was super excited to see, which was the Joshi 6-way, it was or 6-man tag, it was fantastic. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Everything clicked the way that it needed to. Could it have been better? Of course it could have been. But as a first show, the production value was great. The stream was pretty much perfect. We didn't really have any issues. I can't think of anything serious that went wrong. Everything just worked. It felt like a professional show. It didn't seem... Rookie mistakes were not being made in the production. It's just they got some kinks to iron out now. And if that's your problem after a first show, that's a great problem to have, because if it's just kinks you got to iron out instead of holes you got to fill, you're doing pretty well. So thanks for listening, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the show as much as I did. I'm probably going to end up going back and watching a little bit of it, because I'd like to see some of the stuff again. I already rewatched the announcement for Awesome Kong, because that pop was good. But yeah, that's all I got to say about the show. Absolutely loved it. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Share the video if you want some other people to know about how awesome the show was, because Lord knows I'm happy to talk for an hour about how good a fucking wrestling show is, because I haven't had the chance to do this in a long time. This is how good the show was, by the way. I haven't put wrestling videos on my channel in a long time. And because the show is that good, I felt compelled to not even wait till Wednesday when I do the Radical Rant podcast, because I initially thought I was going to do it then, because right now I don't have a lot to talk about on Wednesday. But I couldn't help it. I had to go and spend an hour talking about this now. And that makes me so happy that I can be this excited to talk about pro wrestling again. And that is exactly what AEW was supposed to be. It was supposed to make you, me, and professional wrestling fans that have either come and gone or are on the verge of going away having something to talk about again. That is the greatest thing that this show has delivered. It's giving us something to talk about again. That isn't just, why can't WWE do this right? Now the question is becoming, AEW, or I keep saying A&W. AEW is doing something that we've been asking for. They're listening to us. They're delivering. And if that is what we're going to get for the next little while, fuck yeah, I'm in. So once more, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.